Hello, and welcome to this recorded open house for the master's program at Louisiana State University, our Communication Sciences and Disorders Masters. I'm Susan Duncan. First off, welcome, bienvenidos, ahlan wa sahlan. We're very glad to have you here. A small bit about Communication Sciences and Disorders at Louisiana State University. There is another recording that can tell you more about our program. You can also find out more information at our website, lsu.edu/comd. We have 10 PhD faculty who are active in our research areas of expertise, and we additionally have 9 clinical faculty who provide the clinical training and supervision in diagnostics and treatment in their areas of expertise. We also have 3 staff members who keep us going, and we have about 80 master's students and 8 PhD students in our graduate program. In brief, the master's program is typically a 2-year program, including 1 summer. So if one started in fall 2022, typically one would graduate in spring 2024 and would also be attending through that summer of 2023. All required courses are taught by PhD faculty. We have thesis track or non-thesis track options depending on the individual student preference. You can find out more about these from that other recording I mentioned. And we offer a complete range of clinical opportunities. We have an on-campus clinic, the LSU Speech Language Hearing Clinic, and we also have various clinical externships off-campus that allow one to see clinical populations in various settings across the lifespan. A bit about the actual application process for admission. You can apply online at applygrad.lsu.edu/apply. And even if you're attending LSU as an undergraduate student, if you haven't applied to the graduate school before, you would click on the first-time users option. And then that will take you to a screen where you enter your name, your email, your birthday, and then your email will receive a temporary PIN, which you will use to create your account with your own secure selected password. Then after logging into the system, you'll select Start New Application, and you'll select On Campus as the program. We don't have an online program. And then pretty much everyone is going to be selecting Masters. I just include non-degree seeking here because sometimes we have students who are looking to just take the undergraduate prerequisites who might select non-degree. So this would be the process for those students. But most people are going to be, almost everyone will be selecting Masters. And then after selecting Masters as one's degree type, you would, under Select a Program, there is a drop-down menu, and under the College of Humanities and Social Sciences is our program, which is Communication Disorders-MA. And then if you're applying for February 1st, 2022, or by February 1st, 2022, the semester you'd be enrolling would be fall 2022. And after this, it guides you through a bunch of sort of, standard self-explanatory questions about your, academic background, and there are various prompts. Okay. So for further details about admissions, you can go to our website, and under the Masters tab at the top of the page, we've got a drop-down menu which includes admissions, so that's a link to our admissions page. And we also have a quick link on our homepage, as you see on the right here, application guidelines for the master's program. By the numbers, in 2021, we received 149 applications and accepted 42 students. 27 of these students started in our fall cohort. That's our typical cohort. We do also have a smaller number of students, it was 13 this year, who started in the spring. These students are from LSU only. There are 2 different categorizations, which I'll talk about towards the end of this presentation. So one is the spring admits, who are by invitation only, and the other is the Accelerated Master's Program, which is a new program currently in its 2nd year, and there are specific criteria to apply for that program. And then we also have fast trackers. So fast trackers are students who come from a major other than communication sciences and disorders, and since as part of the program they need to take the undergraduate prerequisites that are required for the graduate degree. Then greater than 2 years are required to complete those because they're completing the 2 years master's program as well as whatever prerequisites are required. And if you are a fast tracker student or if you come from a background outside of communication sciences and disorders, you can email me, Susan Duncan at duncan1@lsu.edu. I'll also have my email later, and it was also on the first page, the first slide here, but you can communicate with me. Additional information about our students: 26% of our students this year are out of state, 48% are LSU students. That's pretty typical. It's usually about half LSU students in our graduate master's program. 12% came from an academic background other than ComD. And I should also mention that 33% of our students who are in the current fall cohort are Black, Indigenous, or students of color, and that's very important to us to have adequate and to increase our representation of students from diverse backgrounds. So we have a holistic admissions process. These are the items on which one is evaluated. You can see at the bottom I have GRE crossed out. I have it crossed out because it's not required for this present year. So if you're applying for February 1st, 2022, you do not have to submit a GRE score, but it may be required in the future, so I didn't actually want to take it in the slide in case you're considering applying after that. I'm not sure whether we will continue to waive that requirement moving forward. At any rate, for now it is waived. You are welcome to submit that score if you feel that it will strengthen your application. However, if you do not submit that score, it will absolutely not hurt you. So important parts of the admissions package are the statement of purpose. This is 600 to 1,000 words, and it should be an essay that addresses all of these kind of bullets. So your purpose in graduate study, why you want to be in communication sciences and disorders at LSU, any areas of study in which you wish to specialize, maybe experiences that led to that interest, and then any unique information about you, your educational experience. So for example, especially maybe if you come from a background outside of ComD, that's great for us. We want diverse backgrounds in our program, right? Your interests, any personal attributes or characteristics that you have, and just in general, any unique value you would bring to the department or field. And I mentioned previously the importance of having students from diverse backgrounds, diverse racial, ethnic, cultural, academic, etc. backgrounds. But in particular, if you're a student from a group that has been historically underrepresented in communication sciences and disorders, and still is, it's not just historical, incorporate that too into your essay if you feel that it's relevant, and also in the boxes that exist on the graduate student application for LSU. Let us know that information because there might be opportunities, as I'll speak about when I speak about funding, that are available to you. And also, that is part of the unique value that you bring to the field. And then also any specific clinical or research experiences that you have that are relevant and you'd like to share with us. So letters of recommendation, we require 3, and I'll talk a little bit more in the next slides about how the statement of purpose and the letters of recommendation are scored, and so that might help you think about who you want to request these letters from. Your GPA, as I mentioned before, you will enter some of this information in the graduate application. Unofficial transcripts are fine for the February 1st deadline. We will need official transcripts at the time of acceptance, and if you had any in-progress courses at the time that we get the official transcripts, then we will also need transcripts that show the completion of those courses and the grades before you actually start the program. So writing samples are optional but encouraged, and I would just sort of strongly encourage these, even though they're optional, because you can imagine that if you had 2 students who were, pretty matched in all of these other categories, that if you have one student who submits a good writing sample and another student who submits no writing sample, that's going to sort of, tip the balance towards the student who submitted the good writing sample. So this would definitely be encouraged, although you do not have to submit them. So again, a little more about our current class. So GPAs range from 2.96 to 4.12. The mean was about 3.7, median also. And so, students who were in the lower end of GPA, right, we don't have any cutoff. We will evaluate any student whose complete application we receive. But so a student who had a GPA of 2.96, might have had a very strong statement of purpose, very strong letters of recommendation, etc. So again, that's our holistic admissions process. The distribution of the scores for the statement of purpose and the letters of recommendation, both of these are scored out of a maximum of 3. And so our mean for both of these was about 2.5, median a little bit higher. And you can see there was a large range. So some students might have, for example, had a less highly scored statement of purpose and more highly scored letters of recommendation, or vice versa. And so our admissions process isn't overly dependent on any one particular piece of information, but really, tries to look at the whole picture. So that's just a consideration. So scorings of the statement of purpose are scored along, with 3 considerations. So the writing, the knowledge, the ambition. And the writing refers to the general overall organization and mechanics of writing. Knowledge refers to like the knowledge of the field, maybe any experiences you've had. So it's really important to incorporate those. And ambition, maybe could also be thought of as motivation, like your specific kind of focus and purpose in, what your plan is, where you're going, where you plan for this degree to take you in your career. And these are each scored on with exceptional being 3, high being 2, average being 1, weak being 0. And then the score, it would be averaged across those 3 categories, writing, knowledge, and ambition or motivation, to calculate that final score for the statement of purpose. For the letters of recommendation, they're scored similarly, but the sort of along 2 parameters. So one parameter is how strong the actual recommendation is, right? So if, it's a very exceptional recommendation with specific examples that really, suggest that you are going to be an extremely successful clinician in this field, then, and has specific, information about why that would be the case, then that would be very strong. And the weak might be something that would be like if there was a letter with a lot of, sort of neutral or even negative comments. And then these letters are also scored not just according to the strength of the recommendation, but who they come from. So a letter that comes from an academic faculty member or a clinical supervisor who knows the student very well is going to be more highly ranked than one that comes from someone who knows the student more casually. So a casual level of familiarity might just be, well, the student came to my class and they participated and they were, they performed well on the tests and they, were always punctual and they participated somewhat in class. Whereas the faculty member or clinical supervisor who knows the person well might, they might have had a relationship where the student was a volunteer in their research lab, or, they were someone who frequently came to office hours. That sort of, so just more than just the typical classroom experience. And then sort of less strength for our purposes here would be a letter that comes from like an organization maybe that the student volunteered in, so a non-academic organization that's not related to ComD. Not to say that it's not meaningful, it just doesn't necessarily give us as good an idea of, how well a student is going to perform in our program and is kind of, aware of what, kind of what you're getting into, right? So having more familiarity from an academic faculty member, clinical supervisor will be stronger. And then the lowest ranked category would be, someone who's a family friend or a non-professional. That's not going to carry as much weight as these other categories of letter writer. So these are things to consider when you're thinking about who you're going to ask for a letter. And you can also ask someone, could you write me a strong letter? So that might help to gauge if you're not certain of who to ask. So here's the full matrix of how these are scored. So some admissions resources. So here's a website for the information. This is the same as that which I showed you before on the website that you can get to from the drop-down master's menu or from the quick link on the home page. And then the graduate school has its own websites where you can get more information about admissions. If you have questions about the program in specific, you can email the ComD admissions committee at admissionscomd@lsu.edu, or if you have any technical problems with the actual application portal, you can email the grad school at gradadmission@lsu.edu. I mentioned earlier the value of diversity in communication sciences and disorders, both to us as a department and also to the field at large. And so I wanted to mention that we also have a lot of campus resources that are available in general. And so so a resource in our department is the Graduate NISLA community. That's the National Student Speech Language Hearing Association. We also have our ComD DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which is, tasked with promoting an environment that is inclusive and welcoming. We also have graduate student tuition awards that are available through the grad school. And these awards are specifically intended to increase representation from groups who are underrepresented in graduate education. Specifically, priority is given to students who are African American or from certain Latin American countries, but also from other groups underrepresented in communication sciences or in graduate school in general. And then there are a lot of other resources across campus: the African Student Organization, the Asian American Ambassadors, the African American Cultural Center has a number of programs and initiatives. There's a Disability Advocacy Council that's of students, as well as the LSU Disability Services, which provides accommodations for students across campus. Genesis Mentoring is more of an opportunity to maybe be able to give back as a mentor for first generation underrepresented students from underrepresented groups. We have an International Cultural Center here at LSU. There's also a lending library for international students. So that's an opportunity to get free or low cost kind of household items if you're moving here from abroad. There's a Louisiana Trans Advocates chapter at LSU. And I should mention actually that the grad school options for when you're completing the application online only includes an option for entering male and female. And there is some verbiage there which indicates why they are restricted to that, but that's outside of our control anyway. So just letting folks know that those are the only two options that are available at this time, unfortunately. There's a Latin American Student Organization, LGBTQ+ Project and Safe Space Campaign, Minority Women's Movement, Native American Student Organization, Office of Multicultural Affairs, which is kind of a larger office that subsumes or coordinates and organizes and supports a lot of these other groups. CHROMA, which is a student group specifically for LGBTQ+ students of color. Spectrum, which is also a group of LGBTQ+ students, and there's the Women's Center. And I'll just point out this lovely sticker. This Inclusion is My Love Language is a sticker that was designed and is being sold by the NISLA chapter at California State East Bay. And I have nothing to do with that sponsorship. I'm just mentioning since I used their sticker on my slide. Okay, so some Q&A. Of course, you can email us with questions, but we're going to try to anticipate some of your questions here and provide answers. So the admissions process, as I mentioned before, any complete application that we receive will be fully reviewed by a committee of ComD faculty members. We don't have any cutoff there where we don't look at you if you're under a certain score for GPA. And as I said, the GREs are currently waived. So we use holistic criteria based on the letters of recommendation, and we consider those based on the who the writer is, as well as their familiarity with the student, as well as the estimate of potential success for that student in the ComD MA program. And so actually I have this in bold here because, for example, students who come from other academic backgrounds, it's would be good if you can ask your letter writers to specifically try to speak to your success in a ComD master's program, or demonstrate that if your letter writers can demonstrate some kind of knowledge of the field that would support your application. The statement of purpose, where you're talking about your knowledge of field, your professional goals, that's the ambition, as well as your or motivation, as well as your overall writing abilities. And again, the GPA, GRE is crossed out here since it's currently waived. Some more admissions numbers. Each year, between the spring and the fall admissions, we have approximately 40 new students joining us, and those who score the highest during that holistic review across all of those various application components are admitted first. So that's usually we start with 25 to 30 for the fall admission. And then the next group are waitlisted, and this will be 40 to 50 typically for the fall admission because many people, especially students from out of state, will apply to multiple programs. LSU may not be the first choice or may not be, the most feasible choice, especially for students who are, would be coming from some distance. So often we do end up accepting waitlisted students. And I mentioned before, approximately half of our admits are typically LSU graduates. In terms of funding, I already mentioned the Graduate Student Tuition Awards. These are merit-based, again, intended to increase representation for students who are from populations that are typically underrepresented in graduate school. But again, these are merit-based awards. So if you are accepted to our program and you have, checked the boxes on the form to let us know that you are from one of these groups, we will nominate you for one of these awards. And we've had really good success in the past with getting these awards for our students, which cover tuition, not fees, but do cover tuition. And there are also, so the ComD, the funding that we have within the department, our assistantships are typically awarded to doctoral students with very, very rare exceptions that have occurred in the past, but are unlikely to occur in the future, especially given the number of doctoral students we have now and the number of stipends we have now. And so, well, actually, I'll mention here that just pointing out doctoral students, so this is saying that these are ComD assistantships that are awarded to doctoral students. If you are interested in doctoral study potentially, I know we're here talking about the master's open house and maybe you're not even thinking that far ahead, for now or forever, but just be aware that there are funding opportunities if you want to pursue doctoral education. You don't have to go into debt to get a doctorate. You can get, a full tuition waiver. Again, the fees are still present, but also get a stipend through one of these assistantships that we have available for doctoral students. And these are available at other universities too. So just like to strongly encourage anyone who is thinking about doctoral study to consider it, and certainly, be aware that these financial opportunities exist. For a master's program, there are a broad range of assistantships across campus outside of ComD, and so in a recent survey, we found that more than 3/4 of our master's students received some kind of funding during their master's program. So these came in the form of graduate assistantships, research assistantships, teaching assistantships, outside of our department teaching assistantships. We don't have teaching assistantships for master's students inside ComD, but sometimes in other departments, these are available. External scholarships and fellowships, diversity scholarships, and various agencies have offered funding to our students. So here's a list of some of them. And, we have great students, and, they tend to be in demand across campus because, just wonderful and, reliable, talented, and so this is why we have such a high number of our master's students who do typically manage to receive some funding, even though our department cannot guarantee it. Um, Aside from the possibility of graduate student tuition awards, also not a guarantee, but a good probability. And there's a letter of admittance that's sent out on admission, and that provides some more detailed information about some of these options. So the spring admits I mentioned before, these are by invitation only. This is just LSU students who are graduating in December. The GRE again is crossed out here because we're waiving that during this current admission cycle, but it might be reintroduced in the future. I don't know. But there's a minimum GPA of 3.5, and if you were going to be graduating in December from our program, our undergraduate program, and you have this GPA, you will be invited. And this is one still submits a full application and still receives full review of this application, as with the other admissions processes. And the invitations will be received from Dr. Gibson, who's the Director of Graduate Services in ComD. There's also an accelerated master's program. As I mentioned, this is a bit of a newer program, just in the last year or so. And this is open to LSU ComD majors who are close to graduating but not graduating, but are able to take 6 graduate credits in the spring before graduating. And actually now we've expanded it that the same if you're able to take more than 6 graduate credits in the fall if you're graduating in the fall. And once again, we have the same requirements. GRE is waived, but there's a minimum GPA of 3.5. And that's for the time at which one applies and also at the time at which one graduates. So just being accepted to the program isn't a guarantee if one's GPA dropped below 3.5. So I think that's important to know. But this program enables students to finish, to accomplish some graduate hours under whatever TOPS or any undergraduate funding that one has, and then this also enables a student to graduate from the master's program 1 semester early. And this isn't by invitation. For this, one submits an application, and there is a full online graduate school application, which is for summer enrollment, that also needs to be submitted. So that's 2 applications. Once again, this gets, it's the full application that gets the full review. And if you have any questions about this program, you can ask Dr. Gibson about them, again, Director of Graduate Services. So hope to see you in the fall, or maybe not this year, maybe next year if you're watching this in preparation. Maybe you're still a junior. Some important contact information for the admissions issues. I already mentioned these, but just putting them all on this slide for you here. So if you have questions about the program, you can reach out to our admissions committee, admissionscomd@lsu.edu. If there are technical problems with that application portal, reach out to the grad school, gradadmission@lsu.edu. Dr. Gibson is our Director of Graduate Services, and so you can reach Dr. Gibson at this email. If you're an undergraduate ComD major, hopefully you're already familiar with Ms. Holman, who's the undergraduate academic advisor for our program, for our department. And if you have a major in another field, you can contact me, Susan Duncan, at duncan1@lsu.edu.